good morning to you, Grenada. Yes, sirree. Today happens to be the 21st day of February 2019. I'm George Grant. Thank you very much for joining us for today's edition of Good Day Grenada. Now, if you find me just a little bit hesitant this morning, I am. I'm a little bit disappointed, but I do understand. He's not going to be with us today. No, no, no. AB, who usually shows up on a Thursday morning, is unable to join us this morning because he's got a meeting scheduled. Now, this man is retired and he's as busy as ever. But I am so grateful that he usually finds time to join us at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning, except this morning. Huh? Yeah. But let's hope he's going to be back with us next week, and I'm sure it will be worth the wait for you. Now, let's take a look at the rundown and see what we got cooking here this morning. But before I do, Benedict is saying good morning. TF is saying good morning. Pedro, our traveling salesman, is bunking it in Brooklyn this morning. And hi, Mags. Good to see you. Thank you very much, folks, for joining us this morning. I'm going to begin with an article. I guess it's a letter to the editor, which I saw in the New Today newspaper a couple of days ago. And let me tell you, this thing so moved me that I thought, wow, I got to share this with the class. It is captioned, "Education Sliding Down a Slippery Slope, Barefooted." Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting that that article showed up in the New Today because not sure if it was earlier on this week or late last week. I actually played you a clip from the governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Timothy Antoine. He was talking about, the state of education in the region while addressing a meeting of the Central Bank of Barbados. So education is obviously on the minds of a lot of people. And just wait until you hear this article. Apparently, it was written by a teacher. I think Teacher P. Okay, it's moving, and it makes you stop and think. In addition to that, I'm going to put out another call this morning for any assistance that you may be able to offer in finding Mr. Alphonsus Antoine. This gentleman went missing on Monday morning. He's not very well, and since then he has not been seen or heard from. As late as about 10 o'clock last night, I phoned one of his sons, and even while I was speaking to him, they were out in the field. 10 o'clock last night, searching for their dad. Mr. Antoine happens to be the father of somebody, a very well-known figure to many of you, Patrick Antoine. And it's a very sad situation. So please, if you have any clue or know the whereabouts or know of somebody who may have seen this gentleman, please either call the nearest police station, or if you go to, you're there. If you're on the website, you will see a list of numbers. There's a story that I published, a very short story that I published on Monday night. And if you go there, you will see a list of phone numbers you can call. Okay, so please do that. Then this morning we do have the you guys ready? Yeah, we got the national report for you this morning. Quite frankly, as I listened to it last night, I really didn't see too much, that might charge you guys up this morning. But your eyes and ears are a lot bigger than mine. So who knows? I'm just keeping my pinkies crossed and waiting to hear how you react to your usual national report. Finally, because Alan is not going to be with us this morning, I am going to continue something I started on Monday. On Monday morning, I played a piece for you from Sunday's edition of SWGG. And I'll tell you, the reaction was overwhelming, just as it was on Sunday when we initially aired the piece. It's with a retired police officer, superintendent actually, from the London Metropolitan Police. And he was talking about the state of driving in Grenada. I ran a piece on Monday which went probably, I think, about 35 minutes. This morning I'm going to run a shorter piece for you, but what I did on Monday is show you the first 35 minutes, if you will, of what we did on Sunday. And today I think we're going to run you the final part, which we just didn't have time to handle on Monday, okay? So stay tuned for that. It's that segment we're just going to capture addressing the horrendous state of driving in Grenada. Okay? So, having gotten the preliminaries out of the way, let's get down to brass tacks. The piece I'm sharing with you is captioned Education Sliding Down a Slippery Slope Barefooted. Quote, the NNP government has shown a callous disregard for education throughout its history of governance. It is as if they sit and carefully and painstakingly plot its demise. We have seen the appointment of education ministers, which have made the entire nation gasp in utter disbelief. Sir Lawrence Joseph, Anthony Boson, Simon Steele, and most recently, Emmeline Peer, were all shocking. Moreover, we have also witnessed a rapid, uncontrolled, and illogical turnover of chief education officers and permanent secretaries. In the last 10 or so years, for instance, there have been no fewer than 7 permanent secretaries. The longest-serving permanent secretary over the years may well be Ruth Rouse, who made 2 different stints lasting just over 1 year. Chief education officers have fared no better. They come and go like buses at the terminal downtown. What is even more incredible is that over the last 9 months, a permanent secretary was forced to perform the duties of chief education officer because one was not appointed. I remember quite vividly the stunned silence which fell over the stadium when the Prime Minister announced that Emmeline Peer would be the new Minister of Education. In fact, the entire country held its breath, slowly exhaled, and shook its head in disbelief, shrugged its shoulders in resignation, and then, in true Grenadian fashion, began to joke about it. It was as if everyone was saying, "There we go again. Education is taken for a big joke." If the nation was hoping somehow that by some act of miracle it would be proven wrong, it has been sadly disappointed. Pierre has been a miserable minister of education thus far. She has been out of sorts, clueless, bullish, disrespectful, and unpopular among education officials as a piece of pork in an Adventist convention. She talks down to educators and education officials and somehow feels that she can hammer teachers into submission. If she was a student of history, she would have known that such tactics could never work with teachers. These are people who gauge, analyze, and evaluate daily. It's the nature of their job. It is easier to kneel down and pour a bottle of medicine down a giraffe's throat than to impose your will on teachers. I can guarantee her that the more she pushes, it's the harder the teachers will push back, and the worse the education system will become. What is more, the teachers will be in their classrooms doing what they love long after she's gone. To add insult to injury, to add insult to Emmeline Pierre, Scholar Jeffrey, the most recent permanent secretary, was unceremoniously replaced. In all fairness, when he was named permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education, the whole nation was stunned. But this time, for the opposite reason. Given his history of singing against the NNP, no one imagined that the government would make such a call. Furthermore, given the government's history of neglecting education, we were all shocked that they appointed the best man for the job. During his time there, I had the pleasure of interfacing with him on 2 occasions that I visited the ministry. And I must admit that I became hopeful. We discussed several educational matters, and his knowledge and expertise were immediately apparent. In fact, the first time I met with him, he was able to solve a problem that I was trying to get the ministry to solve without luck for the last 3 years. I met him once by the Deco gas station, sometime after midnight, dressed in his shirt and tie. When I inquired, he told me that he was just coming from work because he has to play 2 roles at the ministry. He said that this was normal. This was a normal hour for him. I was taken aback. So, they removed Scholar, some say for taking a stance on the side of the teachers during the industrial action. And 1 week later, a new chief education officer was appointed. Honestly, I do not know the young man well, but his resume jumped out at me. For starters, he has 2 degrees from the Caribbean Nazarene College in Trinidad. My first thought was, in which bush in Trinidad is this college located? It had me Googling like crazy. Then I noticed that one of his degrees is in general studies and the other is in counseling. Surely not what you expect a chief education officer to possess. In fact, I saw a recent advertisement for the position, and Mr. Andrew does not possess the qualification listed in the advertisement. So I looked at his experience, for I felt that he must surely have that. Sadly, all I saw was that he taught for 25 years in a secondary school, he is fluent in French, and that he was a counselor of some district or another. Where is the administrative experience, for crying out loud? This looks and smells like a square peg in a round hole. To me, this is one of the least qualified and experienced persons on paper from among all the educators out there for the job. I know for a fact that there are educators in the system with strong master's degrees and PhDs who have years of administrative experience under their belts. Is it that they're just not interested? What about Michelle Peters? Is she not interested? What about the principal of St. Mark's Secondary School? Is this the only fella who wants to take the plunge? This sizes up to me as though they just placed somebody there as a figurehead for the minister to manipulate for her whims and fancies. All of this, together with the obvious, moves to coerce principals and physical education. Teachers. Let me read that again. I'm terribly sorry. I'm missing Alan this morning. All of this, together with the obvious, moves to coerce principals and physical education teachers into breaking their union's work to rule so that the minister can stage her ill-advised pseudo intercar games. This is tantamount to an education system sliding down a slippery slope barefooted. Signed, Teacher P. Ha. Yeah, folks. Check it out in the New Today. Oh, you guys have been very busy out here this morning. Lincoln says, good day to all God's children. Another beautiful day to be thankful, kind, and respectful to each other. Much love. Thanks, Lincoln. Fitzroy is saying good morning, and so is Veronica Sandy, and sending her blessings as well. And she says, hope he's all right, and will be home soon. She's referring there to Mr. Alphonsus Antoine. Boy, a lot of us hope so, and I really do wish I could get a hold of Patrick. Anyhow, Bernard saying good morning, and so is Glenn Andrew Mark. Margaret says, how can anyone expect any differently from minister? Okay, slow down, George. Margaret is asking a question here. How can anyone expect any differently from minister could have, should have? It's like trying to make a silk purse from a sow's ear. Glenn says, GG, we all know that the longest rope has an end. Boy, ain't that the truth. And Kipling is saying, good morning to all of you folks out there. Oh boy. Oh, by the way, Margaret also says here, Sculler's appointment was a smart, strategic move. Keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer. Neutralize the enemy. Yeah? And Sharon has just popped in here. Sharon, by the way, hey, Sharon, among friends, you know, I can tell these people out there. Sharon just brought me, I'm going to say this just to tease Margaret. Last night, or yesterday when Sharon was here, you heard us talk about me going to their Kaluki outing last night. Well, I'll tell you what, I wasn't feeling very well at all. I went out to shoot a piece, which is going to be aired on Sunday morning, and I really wasn't feeling too well, so I came home and I hit the sack. And unfortunately, I did not make it to Sharon's home last night for the Kaluki shebang, if you will, okay? When I got up late last night, I sent a WhatsApp to her saying, you know, I hope you're keeping some of that stuff for me, because she was talking yesterday about what she was preparing for dinner last night for her guests. And she sent the pictures just to tease me. And I thought, you know, Margaret would probably be licking her lips if she could see this stuff. So anyhow, just a few minutes ago, just before I got started this morning, guess who sneaks in here very quietly? It's right here. So George, I may have missed the Kaluki game, not that I would have played because I'm still not au fait with the game. Somebody has to take the time to teach me. But the grub, so I can't wait. I mean, I love you guys. Yeah, I love you guys, and I enjoy your company, but I can't wait to say goodbye to you this morning. I got to go and sample this stuff. I really have to. Okay. So Sharon, where's Sharon? Sharon is saying good morning, George. Good morning, Gigi and family. Bernard says the force keeps changing, but the monkeys remain the same. That's NNP in a nutshell. Why you guys keep beating up on these guys, eh? You know, come to think of it, it seems like there's only one political party around these days, and I guess that's why everybody's taking shots at them. Huh? But please, just stop beating up on the NNP. Huh? Please. So Kipling is there, and who else? Who else? I think that's it for the time being. So let me take a little break here, and we'll come back with a national report.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey neighbor,
Here's the bill I asked you to pay for me.
how did you get your electricity bill to be so low?
For one, we size our transformers just for what we need. And we unplug transformers, chargers, and other devices when they're not in use. We also replaced our light bulbs with LEDs.
They burn less energy, right?
Much less. I even replaced the seal on my refrigerator door to keep the cold air in.
And Grenlec is always advising us not to open the fridge too often.
That's right. And my family washes and irons in bulk.
With fuel prices changing all the time, how do you know if it is working?
We pay attention to the usage history table. Over time, our average usage has decreased.
So while Grenada can't control fuel prices, I can conserve energy and save money.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
Okay, now, just before I get into the national report, there's a note here, a couple of notes I want to share with you. One from TF. TF says it's really personal, and that's a really personal and point-driven article, which was well articulated by the writer. He's referring to that piece I read from Teacher P a little while ago. It gives a bird's eye view of the present catastrophic state of our education system. If we are to speak about square pegs in a round hole, then start with the ignorant ministers. He goes on to say, George, have you ever realized that what goes around comes around? TF, that's a phrase, boy, I have used since I set foot back in this country. I learned that from a gentleman by the name of Herbert Augustus Blaze. Yeah, as far maybe somebody before him said so, but from where I sit, he coined that phrase. Then Margaret says here, that's okay. I still go wish you a bon appetit. Well, let me tell you, Margaret, take a look. I don't know if you can see this. In this container here, there's some sort of homemade bread. There's also Belizean meat pie, which she made. Haven't sampled that before. And a sort of sandwich with fish, a fish sandwich. Now, it's cold as I'm holding this in my hand here. It's cold, so I guess she kept it in the refrigerator overnight for me, which is fine. And I have been tempted to go put this in the oven and let it warm up so that when I get off the air here with you guys, hey, Brecky would be waiting. Georgie ain't gonna do that. Georgie's scared. And let me tell you why. Yesterday morning, I told you I've been drinking cinnamon tea a lot lately. That's all I have here, cinnamon tea, okay? Well, yesterday morning I put some cinnamon sticks in the pot there to boil for a while. And I had put enough water for like 3 or 4 cups, okay? Because I don't like to have to boil this thing every time I go to it. Well, let me tell you something. I totally forgot that I had that pot on that burner. The next time I went to the kitchen, the cinnamon sticks were literally on fire, blazing. Yeah. I'm ashamed. But at least I'm honest with you. I'm telling you exactly what happened. When that was actually on Tuesday, because when when Ray came in here to do the program on Tuesday, I said, Ray, do you smell anything? He said, yeah, I smell something burning. Oh man, I could have crawled under my desk. Anyhow, yes. I mean, Could have lost the house.
Grenadian cricket icons to be formally recognized during first one-day match at the National Stadium next week. We'll have details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Wednesday, February 20th, I am Rakisha St. Louis. 3 Grenadian cricket icons will be recognized on day one of the upcoming 2 one-day internationals here next week. At the 45th Independence Military Parade, Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honourable Keith Mitchell announced that one of the stands in the cricket stadium will be named after left-handed batsman Devon Smith. On Tuesday, during the government's weekly post-cabinet briefing, Acting Sports Minister Senator Winston Garaway said this will be unveiled on Monday, February 25th, day one of the 2-day international matches. In addition, plaques will be unveiled for cricket legends right-handed batsman Junior Murray and Roy Lewis, who is also a right-handed batsman. Lewis is currently the manager of Cricket West Indies. The government has already named stands at the cricket facility after Murray and Lewis.
On the first day, we will do the unveiling of the plaque for that stand. So I'm hoping the St. Patrick's Party will come down to be a part of this live event. Also, a plaque will be unveiled in the name of Junior Murray and Roy Lewis for the stand that they have. So a plaque will be erected in their stands. This will be, as I said, the biggest stage to do this, because that's where they have garnered all the fame and the likes and so forth, and that is what the game is given back to them. And I trust that quite a lot of us, Grenadians, and even foreigners, will come to be a part of this experience.
The implementation of a regional strategy for the development of statistics will be the center of discussion during a high-level advocacy forum on statistics in Grenada this week. It will be held at the Grenada Trade Center on Friday. Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honourable Keith Mitchell will deliver the feature address at the opening of the one-day forum. Dr. Mitchell is the lead head of government in the CARICOM quasi-cabinet with responsibility for science and technology. Still with news, with the prediction that Grenada and other Caribbean countries could experience long-term drought conditions, the National Disaster Management Agency's South St. George District Committee is seeking to raise awareness of water conservation and fire prevention. An open forum was held at the Limes playing field on Tuesday, which also looked at fire prevention and disaster management. It's part of the agency's efforts to build awareness on relevant areas that can assist in its quest to manage disasters effectively. The dry spell that has been affecting Grenada since the start of the year has motivated NAWASA and NADMA to increase their public education campaign. NAWASA's communications assistant, Wendy Chateau, stressed the need to store water and manage its consumption.
One of the most important things is water management. For individuals to focus on having storage, because of course with drought comes a reduction in our ability to supply, because if not much is going into the system, there's not much to put out. So of course already we have 4 systems challenged, hundreds of individuals affected. NAWASA is trying its very best to minimize the impact on our customers. However, our customers also has to play a part. We encourage individuals to store at least 35 gallons of water per person per day for a minimum of 3 days. Disaster Management District Coordinator Arthur Pear said South St. George was selected for the forum due to its vulnerability to the effects of the dry season. He is hopeful that educating the residents will bring about change during the dry season, especially as it relates to fires.
The water conservation is certainly needed to ensure that we have water to make it through this dry season. But we have to educate our people, and as the person in charge of the district, we felt that it was necessary to have a forum like this where we can really go out to educate the people. We have gone through some of the villages, hand out leaflets and pamphlets, and we felt that we needed to have an open forum where people can come, listen, and get some serious information as it relates to water conservation. Also, we have experienced fires in the south, right over Frequente, and so almost every year we know that hill burns. So we felt that it was necessary to inform persons what they need to do to prevent those fires from happening and to safeguard themselves.
The fire department has recorded a reduction in fires from 2018 into 2019 so far.
Over the years, we've had an increase so far with fires. However, for 2018 into 2019, we've seen a reduction so far because we've been doing, let's say, an extensive amount of fire prevention. So persons have been getting in the message, and by extension, persons also have been charged for setting fires and failing to take the necessary steps required in order to set fires.
That was Constable Franklin of the RGPF's Fire Department. This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
A taste of spice, welcoming our cricketers and fans to Pure Grenada, the Isle of Spice, showcasing our culture and heritage on Tuesday, 26 February on the Carnage in St. George's. England versus the West Indies. Cricket Rest Day. Come enjoy a taste of spice. Performances from top soca and calypso artists, pan, drummers, dancers, a mini carnival parade, arts and craft, and local food. From 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. The Carnage is the place to be. It's cricket, lovely cricket. Rest Day, Tuesday, 26th February. Sample a taste of spice. Hosted by the Grenada Cultural Foundation. No unauthorized vending allowed.
Welcome back. The head of cooperation delegation of the European Union to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Louis Mayer, says they are supporting the CARICOM Secretariat to conduct a comprehensive strategy on the extent, nature and patterns of human trafficking in the CARIFORUM region. He was speaking Tuesday at the start of a two-day workshop on human trafficking, described as the second largest and most lucrative criminal activity in the world. The International Labour Organization, ILO, estimates that forced labor generates 130 billion euros in illegal profits each year. Mr. Mayer said despite ILO standards and UN protocols against human trafficking, globally there are at least 20 million victims who are made vulnerable as a result of poverty and are exploited by criminals.
Trafficking is much more than just an immigration issue. It is a human rights issue. It is a development issue, a criminal issue, and a security issue. It requires a coherent response that acts across multiple fronts. And looking at today's workshop agenda, I can see that you are in the right track here in Grenada, collecting data to uncover the scale of the problem, building special capabilities among law enforcement and criminal justice systems, and making sure that all relevant agencies are talking to each other, whether it is social services, health departments, hospitals, or care homes. These are not only challenges for you, as you know, but also for all our partner countries.
Finally, educators in Grenada are reaping the benefits of a UE Regional Education Strategy course held as part of an OECS education support project. Close to 40 educators, which include principals, vice principals, and education officers, recently participated in a three-day learning and accountability workshop under the Regional Education Strategy, Every Learner Succeeds. We get more details from Annette Moore.
The workshop has definitely been a timely one, and it has been very relevant. It has caused me to refocus and have a paradigm shift in how operations would take place at the Crucial School.
The regional 2010 Grade 4 literacy and mathematics test showed that approximately 50% of the Grade 4 students had not achieved mastery of their grade levels work, and at the secondary level this was reportedly worse. Therefore, the Education Support Project, which is financed by a GPE-funded Education Plan Development Grant and a Program Development Grant, was initiated.
It will really make a difference in the way you operate and run your school on a daily basis.
The Regional Education Strategy for 2012 to 2021, Every Learner Succeeds, is expected to improve the quality of education and low learning outcomes among students across the OECS.
I really want to commend the Ministry of Education in taking that step to bring this program to us.
Participants shared their views on the importance of the workshop, which was held at Marischal House in St. George.
Some of the strategies learned definitely. For example, we learned how to promote your school, how to change the school culture of your school. For me personally, I would try to encourage my student leadership roles where we have different opportunities of different persons leading in different areas. So you have shared leadership. So later on, if needs be, God forbid that the principal was to move on or someone else had to move on, we can easily transition from one position to the other.
The participating member states are Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Here in Grenada, principals and vice principals are already planning on implementing best practices and strategies learned.
We have students at our school who really need assistance with numeracy and literacy, and I would definitely want to have an intervention program just for these students. It is intervention where you can use a specific area of a problem area in your school to target certain students to help them see improvement in different areas.
Adeltris Roberts, a newly assigned principal, was speaking of the RTI intervention strategy. She also feels more confident of using data to drive instruction, feels better equipped to monitor instruction, and to lead policy creation and implementation. Another new principal, Henva Simeon, also felt empowered by the workshop and course.
I plan to improve on the school development plan that we are now working on. And another important issue is to create policies for my school.
My biggest takeaway from this week is, one, the use of data, how we use data to inform interventions in the school.
One of the areas that I believe is lacking a lot in Grenada is the use of information, the use of data to make decisions. What I'm going to do when I go back is to have a team of persons come together, or the entire staff, and look at how we take data, how we treat data as a school, and take that data, analyze it, and chart the course ahead as to what we're going to do to ensure that all of our students get the best education possible.
I especially like that part of the program where they talked about teaching to boys, because our school has so many boys, and we always know it is a struggle to teach boys, so I am looking forward to applying what I have learned here to the teaching of boys.
And we'd like to thank the persons who are behind this workshop, this session, this course of studies.
For the National Report, I'm Annette Moore.
Thank you, Annette. That story just ended the National Report for today, Wednesday, February 20th. Recapping the top story. Grenadian cricket icons to be formally recognized during the first one-day match at the National Stadium next week. On behalf of all those who made this newscast possible, I am Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Alrighty, folks. Alrighty. I was hoping that you guys would have given this morning's GIS report, the national report, a pass. Well, think again, George. They didn't. Margaret says here, did she say the lead head? So how many heads are there? Margaret, you're too observant for your own good. TF says, these reporters are still not learning the way to properly address persons. Shouldn't it be the Right Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell? Margaret, can you institute a class on media grammar, please? Then he goes on to say here, Nawasa has been spending money over the years and not seeing any improvement. They did a number of boreholes years ago. I'm wondering, what was the use of them? One such was erected in the vicinity of Boca Secondary School, and nothing is or was ever done with it. So says TF. Margaret says here, TF, I agree with you, but I'm going to give the reporters a pass on this one for the simple reason that some PhDs have demanded that Dr. DR comes before anything else. I guess that is their way of shouting from the rooftop that they are learned. So says Mags. Put them in their place, Mags. And finally, Kipling says, with all that we see happening, why are we still addressing politicians as honorable? Is the meaning of the word changed? Or, as some may say, evolved? Good question, Kippy. Good question. Now, pilgrims, another true confession. I mentioned to you just before we started the GIS report that I wanted to put my breakfast in the oven, but I was afraid to because of what I did with the cinnamon tea on Tuesday. Well, old people have a saying, there is more than one way to skin a cat. So, guess what? During the GIS report, I did go put that stuff to warm up. I did. And now I'm in a mad rush to get back there as soon as I start that next segment. Right? Soon as I start that next segment, I'm going to go and have breakfast. So actually, I won't have to wait until I'm through with you folks this morning to have brekkie. I will have brekkie during the program. There you go. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Hey, let me take a little break here and come back.
With free island-wide delivery, Hubbard's Building Supplies and Lumber Departments continue to provide the best quality lumber, steel, tiles, plumbing materials, electrical, and general hardware supplies at competitive prices. We continually consult with builders, homeowners, and contractors to improve product range and services. Enjoy discounts where applicable, including the use of credit and debit cards. At Hubbard's Building Supplies, Grandance, and Lumber Department, Carenage, we offer quality service, affordable prices, giving you the convenient, reliable, free island-wide delivery. Call 440-2087 for all your home improvement and building solutions.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
All right. Wayne Hutton Francis Sr. has just popped up. Good morning, Mr. Hutton Francis Sr. I don't think I've seen you before, but I'm glad to see you this morning. Thank you very much for joining us here on Good Day Grenada. He says, my understanding is that honorable is only used in the House or Senate among themselves. It does not apply to us, the public or journalist. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I have sort of abolished that honorable thing, especially Dr. the Right Honorable 3-4 times in a press release that's only 3 or 4 paragraphs long. Please. Now, let me explain what I'm going to run by you now. Those of you who were with us on Monday may recall that we ran a piece about the state of driving in Grenada as drawn to our attention by a retired superintendent of police with the London Metropolitan Police. And he promised us that he was not very happy with what he'd seen on the roads here, felt that there were too many needless fatalities and injuries being caused on our roads. And he promised us that he would be having a chat with the Royal Grenada Police Force at some point during this week. I await to hear the outcome of that conversation with the police. So we did a program that was about an hour long on Sunday. We talked a lot about this. And on Monday, I ran you a 35-minute segment of that program. Today, I want to run for you the other 25 minutes. You'll find it just as interesting. Here goes.
I think for me, the difficulty here is I have been more behind the scenes. I am going to continue to propel and project my voice.
Like me.
I'm going to keep doing it, and maybe I'll thank you twice. I'll do it a third time. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to your listeners. But the reason I'm going to do it, and the reason I'm not going to pull my punches, is because whilst there will be many people who will be vexed or angered at some of the things I say when there's no real reason to be, I am more passionate and more concerned about the people who died needlessly. The people who are walking or moving about with disabilities and infirmities because they were in avoidable accidents. And as we speak, in the interim, before we get anything done, if the authorities want to engage, I've said it once, I'll say it again, the high risk is there are people who are currently in good health. And that's going to change unless we do something about it, because there are people using the roads and I don't think for a minute they set out to cause the adverse impact that they do cause. But nonetheless, they are negligent, they are careless, and they are dealing and creating collisions that are avoidable. And that's why I'm emphasizing these are collisions. We stopped, in my policing years, the earlier years, we talked about accidents, and then we noticed over the years we stopped referring to accidents because we know accidents do occur. But in the vast majority of instances, it's down to either defects in the vehicle or, more prominent, defects in the driving. And these collisions, not accidents, these collisions are avoidable. So we've got to do something about it.
Ryan says, for 20 years I drove in Greater London, the UK, and the Met enforce traffic laws. Okay?
Absolutely.
Let's dream on here, right? Kipling says, this. Some people are going to laugh at this, but this is a very sad state of affairs. It goes to show the level of frustration and cynicism that has built up in the Grenadian people over years. Kipling says, "Good luck speaking to the PM. Case closed." We chuckle at that, Rod, but it's a sad, sad commentary on where we are in Grenada today. Sad. Ryan says, here in Florida, the state troopers also enforce traffic laws. Grenada must step up. I think that's it. Rod, could you try and summarize? You've mentioned things that you'd like to see change, but could you just summarize some steps that would help to enhance the current situation?
There are, not necessarily in the order I'm giving them, but
Okay.
these are a series of actions that need to take place. There needs to be a revision and a review of the training provided to the police officers. I know amongst them, and some I know personally, I'm not criticizing any individual, I'm talking about the generic training and the understanding of what they should be doing when they're on patrol. When they're on patrol, they need to be able to deal with incidents without fear or favour. And a significant problem here, because we're dealing with a small community, is confidentiality. And therefore, an officer may decide not to act with integrity or openness and fairness because he or she has an allegiance or a family relationship to a particular person who may know somebody involved in, we're talking about road collisions here. I know it's very different because in the United Kingdom with 63 million people, and in the capital where I worked, you had 8 million people, 10 million people with the commuters coming back and forward. So you don't have that small group connections. You have that in Grenada. But road signage for people who are visiting Grenada, yes, there's a little bit of expense, but the roads are quite hazardous, winding roads through mountains. You need to tell visitors who decide to hire vehicles what the hazards are and put them in advance. And if the police want to claim that the signs are being removed, then that's down to them to enforce and prosecute those people who are interfering with them. There are drivers who are listening now. Some, this falls on deaf ears. Some will say, well, he's not talking about me. But I am talking about you. It's not just bus drivers, but it's a whole range. It includes bus drivers and a whole range of individuals. In terms of steps, George, if they won't comply, they need to be prosecuted and disqualified from driving for fixed periods of time. In the event that your driving persists, your standard of driving is so low and persists that you risk people's lives, then you can be disqualified for indefinite periods of times. And then we need to get round to impounding vehicles. So if that does, at the incremental levels, if they won't comply, if prosecution doesn't work, take the vehicle from them. Not randomly, but having legislation to do so. And I come back full circle that you're never going to prevent all collisions. It's never going to happen. There's collisions in London as we speak. But the aftermath of collisions, the investigation must be thorough. And as I say, on Wednesday, St. Mark's will be in shutdown as people mourn the loss of Anderson Scott. And for the officers who are listening, because of the early evidential gathering that it's clear to me has not taken place, I invite you to contact me. Don't be hostile, come and speak to me. Some things you won't be able to recover, because if you don't get them early, you'll be struggling. But you need to have post-investigative measures which are effective. Prevention, and where we can't prevent it, investigate it thoroughly. Grenada, as you've rightly said, I talked about the landscape, and you said there are many things more. I wasn't born in Grenada, but I am a dual national. I can't determine where I'm born. I was born in London, but my parents brought me here when I was 10 of my own volition. I am here in Grenada for significant proportions of any year, and as I age, I guess I may spend more and more time here. This is something which is passionate for me, and I ask those people in power, from the Prime Minister through to the senior police officers, please engage with me, and if you don't like dealing with me, that's fine. It's not about me. Then I will put you in touch with other people, other organizations that can help enhance what's taking place here. And if you don't do that, then somehow, because problem solving is what I do, then I'm going to go about with the residents of this country to enhance and safeguard people. If we can't get those people who have the responsibility to do it, then we have to do it ourselves.
There's a gentleman now in Carriacou. He's an English gentleman. He's listening to you right now. And he says, good luck, Mr. Charles. Some of these drivers wouldn't last 5 minutes in London.
Less than that.
Yeah, yeah. Joyce Smith says, is there any law in Grenada? Everyone seems to do as they like. Yeah. They're resonating. They're resonating. Ernesto says, Mr. Rod, I think you should set up a meeting with the commissioner. He seems decent and willing to listen to make important, best decisions for Grenada. You know, I'm happy to hear that you're going to talk with the police this week. And just getting back to what Ernesto was saying here, we have a commissioner now, and I have probably the highest hopes I've had in the 36 years since I've been back here for the RGPF. I believe that this man means well. Whether or not he's going to have the latitude to do what he believes needs to be done will have to be seen, okay? I believe that he's capable. But again, whether or not he has the latitude to do what needs to be done is left to be seen.
George, may I say then, because just for absolute clarity, having previously contacted the former commissioner, this timing could be very good here. I don't have a meeting set up with the current commissioner, but if he or anyone close to him is listening, then you can reach out to me. Make no bones about it. This week, I will be making contact with the commissioner, and I will be flexible, have latitude to align my availability to the busy commissioner's calendar. So I will be making more approaches, and I will see the commissioner, assuming he cares to see me.
Well, you know, I hope that you're going to keep us informed on the outcome of your meeting with the commissioner. And
if he agrees to see me.
If he agrees to see you. I think it would be good if he could hear the conversation that we're having here this morning. Tessa Barry says, I'm willing to join an awareness team with you, sir, if the authorities are not taking you on. An awareness campaign is a good start, utilizing all available media networks, slogans, signs, jingles, etc. Awareness. You know that we pass everything on to education and awareness.
Did you say Tessa Barry there?
Tessa,
George?
Tessa. I've got her contact.
You'll have my contact, and if you could facilitate us communicating, that would be fantastic. Tessa, I would be pleased to start a dialogue and some action plans with you.
Rod, I was just about to say the issue here is enforcement. I am sick and tired of hearing about, let's educate. We make some jingles, we put some posters up and about, and that's it. And then people just go do what they shouldn't be doing. You know, a few years ago, they came up with this thing about wearing seatbelts. For a little while, big brouhaha, man. People are being charged. And then, gone. No enforcement. Where is this taking us, man?
You see, the pressure here comes to the current commissioner because the onus is on that senior officer not to be directly accountable for every action of individual police officers because, again, he can't be everywhere. But it is for him to put in place an infrastructure that will make sure that officers are correctly briefed and officers follow through. Officers are also, you talked about officers with chevrons on stripes, etc. When I was promoted I was fortunate, I did a few more promotions, but I became a sergeant. I can tell you that is the most significant leap in policing. From constable to sergeant is the most significant leap. Why? Because the transition to supervision, the transition to being held to account, and for the first time, the first tier, that you become responsible for the actions of officers or the omissions of officers when they don't do their job correctly. That's a lot of pressure on officers. So when an officer is patrolling or moving around with the chevrons, looks impressive, but it's only impressive if you make that supervision work for you. And some, I don't know all of them, but some do not. But it does, and this is where it comes back to the chief of police, because I'm looking forward to making contact. That will probably be done tonight, if not tomorrow morning, and I'll stand by to see what response comes through. If the public, and it's a small country, if anybody is family members are listening to the commissioner and want to bring his attention to this person who's been talking on the radio, then please give advance notice that I am going to be contacting them within 24 hours. And I'll leave the onus on the police to engage. I am not here trying to usurp or trying to change. I'm here trying to give the benefit of 30 years experience.
And I think the public is aware of that. I really do believe that. And, you know, we need to also avoid casting a broad blanket, because I can attest to the fact that there are police officers in the force who over the years have worked their buns off to serve and protect.
It is very difficult for those excellent officers to continue to try to strive when they have in their midst officers who are not punching their weight and pulling their weight. And so they are. I'm glad you mentioned that, because if I've given the impression that it's all officers, then I would be wrong. Having worked in policing, I know that there are excellent officers who are trying, but they are tarnished by the actions or the omissions of other officers.
Which brings me to another issue, and that has to do with their employment policy. You know, not everybody's made to be a cop.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, there are a lot of people out there who just want to work.
Yes.
They want a job.
Absolutely.
So you hire pretty much anybody. And therein lies the problem. Therein lies the problem. It starts right at the beginning. Tessa Barry says, George, I remember when there was a time Grenadians used to do a lot of littering. Awareness campaign facilitated by Ms. It's not Mona, it's not Mona Tessa, it's Myrna, M-Y-R-N-A, went a long way. Not 100%, but a lot of Grenadians became more conscious of what they were doing. We can help ourselves. If 3 bus drivers are touched by awareness, that's 15 lives safer. Bob Marishow says, Ryan says, our Grenada has so many nice places to drive to for a visit, but driving on the roads is a deterrent. Joycey Smith says, I live in London, and I can relate with what he is saying. Driving offenses here are a serious matter. Bob Marishow says, I think that there is enough traffic offenses to warrant a traffic court at evenings or night in Grenada. Fines are always a deterrent in these cases, but it will have to work in tandem with enforcement.
You have to disqualify people from the road when they won't heed the laws. And if the disqualification doesn't work because they cannot comply with the orders, then you have to impound the vehicles that they are given access to. And that might mean some tweaking or creation of new laws. But you know what? It's worth doing it, because not to do it results in the tragedies and the catastrophes we've been talking about.
Bernard Gilbert says the buses carry too many passengers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's just a mindset that needs to be changed, and the only way you're going to change that mindset is with some enforcement.
Yep.
Careful selection of employees for the force and enforcement. Ernesto says, I'm with you, and we'll be praying for you to help bring about that change with your experience, which is needed badly. Kipling Francis says, sir, the only way these things can and will work is when and if we have a change of government. But that is, again, I say, if and when. You know, Kipling, you may have a point, but I believe without a change of government, change of mindset.
This isn't a political solution.
It's not.
It's not a political solution. It needs robust supervision. It needs robust directions, and it needs to hold officers to account when they fail to do what they should have done. And in absence of that, the officers can walk by, they can disregard, they can ignore things. And based on what we said a little while ago, let me stress, some officers.
Yeah.
Because there are other officers out there doing their damnedest to do well. But they're struggling when they look at their colleagues who are not doing what they should be doing. And these individuals are allowed to do it have their omissions with impunity. Because the supervisors don't do anything about it. This is the kind of thing that I am talking about. This is the kind of change in regime, because I'll tell you, when you, as a police officer, I never left a police station I was uniformed for 30 years. I never left a police station without a thorough briefing on what were the recent events and what our intelligence said are likely to happen. And then in and around that, there are things that happen unexpectedly. But that's the beauty of policing, because they train you to be able to react to it. Officers need to be briefed thoroughly, and officers need to be challenged if they are told that if people learn that they didn't do something that they should have done. But at the moment, those officers who are what I will describe as more rogue officers or lazy officers, and as offensive as it may sound, unfortunately, listeners, it's true about some officers. And the way to remedy them is to have sanctions. And when you don't do what you should be doing, then you are no longer part of the police service. Let's find people who want to do the job. Let's find people who care about the community. Because there are many out there who would love to have a crack at working within the police service. None of this is easy, but I managed to climb a few ranks in the police service. I scraped my head the other day, so the grey hairs aren't showing through as much as they normally do. Rest assured, my difficulties in the police service came from managing and challenging officers who underperformed or would not do what they would do. And so internally, behind the scenes, they're real hard stuff, real hard challenges. And that's where sergeants, inspectors and upwards have to be called to account. It's not just a person on the street not performing. They're not performing because their managers don't insist that they perform.
You know what's so particularly interesting about this conversation is that, excuse me, but you're an outsider. It's not like you're somebody who's here with an axe to grind. You know, there are a lot of people here who bitch because, well, I don't like so and so, and you know, that's not the case with you. You're an outsider who's trying to help. Well, I'll tell you, I know that they have been listening. Based on the feedback I'm seeing here on Facebook and on Rumble Chat, they are listening. And you have said a lot that other people would like to say. But there's also a fear, my friend, of speaking out in this country. Big time. And that in itself is sad.
That is sad. I thank you again, George, for allowing me to have this extended time talking to you and to your listeners.
Well, if you really want to show your appreciation, how about keeping us informed on where things go from here?
Without
so this
doubt.
is not a one-off thing.
Without doubt. Thank you very much, and I will update, be it progress through discussion and then action, or in the event that I'm rebuffed and ignored, either way, I'll keep you updated
One
on how
way or
we're
another.
doing.
And look, Ernesto was saying here, great interview, Mr. Grant. Would you have him back to give us an update on the progress made? Then Joycey Smith says, there should be signs on the road stating speed limits and not which party to vote for.
Absolutely.
Yvonne Joseph says, Mr. Grant, what this gentleman is saying is so true. I came home last year when my mom died, but was scared to take a bus. Ryan says, laissez-faire and paranoia are malaise in Grenada. Tessa Barry on Rumble Chat says, George, passengers can also get drivers to be more conscious. Get off the buses. Ask the questions in the driver's seat to slow down or drop you from the personal vehicles. You know something? I don't have a car, so I use public transportation a lot. And I got off a bus the other day because this bus driver, it's not that he was driving recklessly. He was, well, driving like an idiot, but stopping and waiting for passengers that were never existent. It's just a mindset. He doesn't give a hoot. The bus was almost full, but he just wanted 2 more people, and he's going to keep the 13 or whatever number of other people waiting until, hopefully, somebody shows up. It's the mindset, Rod. Kipling says, policemen that were dismissed from the force for wrongdoing under the NDC are back on the force and promoted. And you say it's not politics? So says Kipling. Dennis Perkins says, thanks, Mr. Charles. More power to your elbow. That's the British gentleman I was telling you about. Ryan says, thank you, officer. More, please. Love it. Oh, man, I am so glad we had this chat. Joycey Smith here is talking about now, and the loud music. That's another issue. Let me tell you something. Loud music. I spent 5 years working with the Royal Grenada Police Force to come up with a noise control act. And that was about 10 years ago. And I understand, I was told by a lawyer not too long ago, nobody's been charged under that act. They're just not serious. They're just not serious. God help us. Ryan says, GG, you have to be brave to use the Grenadian buses. Okay, folks, time out. Georgie Porgy's got to go because we have some other things to take care of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George.
Keep in touch.
Thank you.
All right. Rod Charles, who is a specialist investigator, researcher, and expert witness. He's served 30 years with the London Metropolitan Police and retired at the rank of Chief Inspector. Serious stuff. Okie doke. All right, there you have it. Part 2, if you will, of that Sunday conversation we had with Rod Charles from the London Metropolitan Police. Folks, there's a note here on Facebook from Joycey Smith. And Joycey is saying, I'm waiting to hear from Mr. Charles if he gets an appointment with any of the people he hopes to meet. Yes, Joycey, we all are waiting to hear, okay? And if I do, we'll have him back here and talk. And, I would also be delighted to have the RGPF join us. I would be delighted. Okay, by the way, Nesta, how come you're always so late, girl? Huh? I mean, we miss you, man. We're preparing lunch or whatever. And by the way, speaking about lunch, feel better. Sharon? Yes, I did warm things up, and what a delightful breakfast. If I could only afford to pay it, girl, I would hire you to be a chef for me. You seem to know everything I like. Anyway, Lydia James says, have a blessed day. Well, I'll tell you what, folks. We're going to take another quick little break, come back and wrap it up.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Well, Nesta is saying that she just got back from her walk. You and Chester love your walks, don't you? She just got back from her walk. I guess it's not too cold out there in Zurich this morning. Pilgrims, listen. Parting word from the Holy Scriptures. From the book of Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 10, verses 22 and 23. Listen. Let us draw near to God with a sincere heart and with the full assurance that faith brings, having our hearts sprinkled to cleanse us from a guilty conscience, and having our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we possess. For he who promised is faithful. Hebrews chapter 10, 22 and 23. Nesta is wishing you guys a blessed and a great day. Pilgrims, so do I. Thank you so much for joining me for today's edition of Gudday Grenada. By his grace, we'll do it again tomorrow morning. God bless you.